There are no such things as limits or obstacles, only opportunities. Step into the greatest version of yourself because what you do matters. Shift your narrative. You're listening to Opportunity Makers, where entrepreneurs come to take their purpose-driven business to the next level. Here's your host, Cyndi Padilla.
Woo-hoo. So glad to see you back here again. I love it every single time I show up and you're here. I get excited. So glad to have you. Cyndi Padilla here with the Opportunity Makers podcast, and we've got another great conversation for you today. An interesting spin on the focus around opportunity. If you're in business, you have to make sales, right? You have to be marketing some kind. And quite honestly, you are always marketing and you are always selling. Many times we're not doing it on purpose or with a plan or a strategy. And I want you to always be thinking about that. I'm going to encourage you to always be thinking about what is the message you're putting in front of people, how you show up, what you say, what you do. There is no such thing as an off switch, not today. I don't know that there's ever been, but definitely not today, not in 2023. Everything you do is recorded, is fluid, is moving, is constant, is constantly in the flow of what going from one spot to the next, one evolution to the next. And everything you do is part of your personal brand. So you can't get away from it. Every message you post, everything you like and comment on and share, every room you step into, every community you're a part of, all of these things go into you as a personal brand, as an individual in the world. And your business just happens to be an extension of you as the individual in the world. And so we always have to be keeping in mind, what is the message that you're putting out? Am I keeping on brand? I don't want to create something for my brand. I want to be constantly in the best version of myself and my brand. And so it's something that we have to be thinking about all the time. In an ever-shrinking world where everybody's literally 1 degree of separation now. I mean, you probably know, you're probably 1 or 2 clicks max away from darn near anybody you need to know in your world, your business, of any size, strength, capacity. I know people in my network who are personal friends with Barack Obama, with Ed Miletz, with Sylvester Stallone, with Beyonce, right? Everybody, people like that too. It's just, you don't know that. You don't know who's on your list. You never know who's on your list. So you want to make sure that you are the one who's curating your environment so that it gives you the connections and the connections and the resources to get through people to other people that you can serve, that you can help, and just be valuable and a resource. But I want you to also understand really clearly that it takes intentionality, right? Because again, you're creating a default brand. But I want you to be able to create something on purpose that suits you really well and brings the best out of you for the people around you and gives you something that you can fight for, right? So I want you to pay attention in this interview that I'm going to bring you. Marc is going to he shares some stories about how he came up from his music roots and how he got to be able to be a performer on Broadway, and all the things that he did was certainly not luck. It was all about effort, intentionality, relentless pursuit of opportunities and of elegance and excellence. And these are the things that you have to do. This stuff is not going to come. It's not going to fall in your lap. Right? This is going to be, you're going to reach the opportunities that you pursue. And the cool thing is when you start pursuing one opportunity, it always opens up those doors, right? We always talk about that here. When you're in pursuit of something, it opens up doors to other things that you would have never found if you didn't get off the couch and out in pursuit in the first place, right? So make sure you know what you want, know who you serve, know what you do, and then start getting out in pursuit of that so that the opportunities can start coming your way, right? Make magic happen. Right, pursue it, and you'll see it coming. And Marc Ensign is somebody he's got a great story to share that you're going to really love. He's a forensic CMO, right? He works with professional industries such as law, medical, financial, and consulting to eliminate wasteful spending on ineffective marketing. That is not flashy and wild, but that is right on point, and it's something that every single one of us need. So make sure that you are tuning in and seeing what you can grab. Is you got some great insights and things to share with you, and pay attention to the story, especially specifically about how he landed his Broadway deal and there's a whole plethora worth of insights and takeaways for you that will apply to your business, your network, the world that you live in, and how you move through it more effectively. So make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe. Let us know that you are here. Get in the show notes for all the ways to be able to access Marc and his resources and his company, and dig in, enjoy the interview. Let us know what's going on inside your head as you're hearing this, and reach out to us. And as always, if you find something here that you really appreciate, let us know. And if you find something in here that you don't want to see anymore, let us know that too, so that we can be the greatest resource to you. So we'll see you on the next episode. Enjoy Marc Ensign in this interview. All right, everybody, back at it. You just heard the formal intro here, as always. Marc, why don't you tell people that are listening and tuning in, why are you here? How did you get here? Why are you relevant in this conversation?
Wow, that's a lot to fill. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm here for because you asked me to be here, and I do what I say I was going to do. So I showed up. No, so I'm in marketing. I've had quite an interesting professional life. The 30-second version is I spent 10 years on Broadway as a bass player, as a musician, and somehow figured out that I was really good at marketing. So I started a marketing firm, and that agency grew over 10 years, 10, 15 years. I exited that agency and moved into branding. I wanted to, get deeper into personal branding, and which was doing fantastic for about 15 minutes. And then COVID hit and wiped out, and pretty much knocked out 80% of my business overnight. And that led me to starting a CMO agency just by chance, by just meeting the right person and stumbling into something. I had fallen into a really friendship with a COO who brought me into a company, and found that all my experience that I've had as a musician, as a marketer, as a brander, as a personal as personal branding, and all of it kind of came together into this into this thing that I'm doing right now, which is fractional CMO, and more specifically, what we call it here is forensic CMO, because we take like kind of a forensic accounting approach to marketing.
Yeah, I like that. And you said how you kind of stumbled into this opportunity, and it's crazy how that more often than not, that's what I hear from people who hit something out of the park, had a great success. Often it was like, this just kind of found me, this approach. So very, very common. Talk about a little bit more about the music side of things. How does your experience in the music side really play into this whole journey that you're on now?
Well, I went to school to be a musician, a professional musician. I had this dream of working on Broadway, which was strange at the time because I'd never been to a Broadway show, but it seemed like a really cool gig to have. It was like steady work. It paid really well. And it seemed like a great place to be. And it was also something that I could chase after, with this idea of like, well, I'm never going to get it, so at least I'll keep my mom happy, thinking that I'm like working really hard towards something, and not being an unemployed musician. And so that's kind of like how it started. And but then once I really kind of got my hands into it, I really fell in love with this idea of playing on Broadway, and playing a part, playing an important role in telling this story for 2 or 3 hours, for not just entertaining people, but changing them. Like like being able to, like, there's nothing better in the world than getting off of work and having everybody in a room stand up and cheer and cry and laugh and smile. I highly recommend that if you can get that to happen at work. It's fantastic. But it was, what I found in that process of getting that gig was how to really make myself stand out and be different. There's 1,000 other bass players vying for one of 12 different shows, and somehow I got it. I was the youngest guy, around at the time. I had no experience. I didn't know anybody. I was completely, on paper, I was completely unqualified for the job. I was not the best person, the best bass player in New York, and somehow I got it. And the way that I did that was through marketing and storytelling and persistence and tenacity, and realizing that I'm a really good marketer. And that's how I got the gig.
Awesome. Awesome. So was there a specific moment, or was there like just a thought process like, wow, this is pretty good, I can help other people? Or did somebody ask you like, help me with do what you did?
Um, there was definitely a moment where I kind of had this aha moment of, hey, I wonder if I can turn this into something where I can help other musicians and artists. And like, I think like one of the key moments for me was I was doing a show in New York, and it was in between the matinee and the evening show, and me and the band went out to dinner. And the guy that was a waiter at the restaurant that we were at, he wasn't waiting on our table, but he came over, to talk to us, was a guy I knew from college, who was a guitar player, and by far one of the best guitar players I'd ever played with. Like, the guy was just amazing. And he was a waiter at a restaurant. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but the fact that, like, here I am, I'm, a fraction of how good this guy is, and I got the gig of a lifetime. And this guy spent his entire, lifetime, from the time he was a fetus till the present, practicing, and never really like worked on how to, like, saw himself as a business. He was just a struggling musician. So I was like, well, let me see if I could package up what I'm doing, or what I did, and start to do this for other people. And that's kind of how it started. And then quickly I realized musicians don't have a lot of money, and started breaking into some of the bigger companies. I caught a lot of attention because what I did was very creative. It was different. And that caught the attention of Nike and American Express and Berkshire Hathaway, and a lot of Fortune 500 companies that ended up, and I realized, wow, like, I would send an invoice to Nike, and they kicked it back and said, like, look, you gotta triple this invoice. It's going to cost us more to cut the check than the amount of the check. So I was like, wow, okay. Like, I want to do corporate stuff right now, and it just kind of ran from there.
Man, that's awesome. And I love that. And it's such I think the best opportunities come when we solve something and then we say, okay, let me go help other people
Yeah.
solve the same problem, right? That's when it's coming from your direct, wisdom and insight. But then you're also, I find that the best experts come from not just the ability to teach what you've learned in the past, but connect the dots to what they can do in the future as a result.
Right. And yeah, because I think when you experience it yourself, and you're not just like pulling something out of, thin air, it also, like, not only do you have the experience and the knowledge and the proof of concept and all the other stuff, but you have a story. And a story is so important when you're trying to sell somebody this new vision of what their life can look like. When you can stand in front of somebody and be like, look, I don't care what industry you're in, it is nowhere near as competitive as the music industry. It is nowhere near as 1,000 people trying to get the same, gig, and I'm the one that got it. And so I get what it's like to feel, to just look at all this noise and try to figure out, how do I cut through all that? Because I've been there. Like, you don't need to be a musician to connect to that story and go like, wow, okay, so if he's able to do it, then, perhaps, like, I could drink some of that Kool-Aid, maybe I can get there too.
Yeah. And the other thing that was coming up is, you mentioned this other guy who was a phenom at the guitar. And how many times do we see, I see it every day, how many times do we see somebody who is great at what they do and unknown, and somebody who's not so great, but they're getting in front of all the right people? And some of the most successful people out there are not people who are necessarily the most talented.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's as much a skill to get in front of people as it is to play that instrument, or to be good at your job, or to be, a virtuoso in your field. If you don't have that marketing piece, if you don't have that ability to tell your story and to get in front of people, and to really sell people yourself, like who you are and what you do and what you've accomplished, you will be that unsung, best kept secret. And if you're looking to build any kind of business, being the best kept secret is not a good goal to have.
So let's shift a little bit in now with the doors that have been open for you. What kind of opportunities have you seen? What are the most, what are the most exciting opportunities you've come across, and as a result of this path that you've been on?
I think the transition from personal branding to CMO was such a big leap, and such a big opportunity that literally fell into my lap. And it really goes to speak to, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I had exited my previous agency, like I had mentioned, and I started personal branding. The reason I started deeper into personal branding is because that was such a big piece of how I got the gigs on Broadway and everything else I had done as a musician. And I got tired of working with, as funny as it sounds, like I got tired of working with these big companies, Nike, American Express, because it just felt empty. Like, Phil Knight wasn't thanking me on the earnings call for helping him out. I was just like another cog in that gigantic wheel, and I wanted to make a bigger difference. When my key, my number one core value is impact. So I got into personal branding with this idea of like, let me help people who have something to say. Let me help them say it. Let me help them get in front of people. Let me help them really kind of wrap their arms around what they're meant to do and help them do it. And it was going really well. Then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden, all the conferences. A lot of my clients were speakers, authors, coaches, entertainers, athletes, people like that. All of those conferences, all the games, all the concerts were all shut down. There's no need for me to help anybody. And so my business just took a punch in the face. And right around that time, a friend of mine who was a COO reached out, and he's like, hey, we have this, I'm working with this company. They're doing 8 to 10 million. Something's wrong with the marketing. Is there any chance you can jump in and come in maybe as our CMO? And I'd never done that before, but here's this opportunity thrown on my lap. And, I ran an agency for 24 years, 23 years, whatever it's been. And so, who knows more about marketing than a guy that's been running an agency for 23 years? And it was a full service digital agency. And I jumped in, and instantly, like, I was at home. I was talking to all the vendors that they were working for, whether it was a web design company, the SEO company, the AdWords company. Like, I spoke their language and I spoke the client's language, and I was such a perfect in between. And I knew when the AdWords company was not being honest and they were doctoring reports. I knew when the SEO company was outsourcing it overseas and not really doing the job that we were paying them to do. And all this stuff just came very naturally to me. It's not something I ever would in a million years have thought of if it wasn't for this, this big thing that happened that really kind of almost buried my company. And so I completed that contract. We extended it for a year, doubled the business. And then I turned around and I was like, well, let me see if I can do it again. I brought on another client, and then another client. And I was like, I got to actually build this into something, because this is pretty significant.
Amen. So, I know there's people listening right now that are thinking, okay, well, this is great for you. You turned something from, Broadway, or you turned a success into another success, but I haven't hit those successes. So how am I going to create those kind of opportunities for myself?
Well, I don't want it to, if I came across this way, I apologize. Like Broadway was not an easy get. Like, I was about as unsuccessful as you can find. I was teaching lessons, and I had like 4 base students a week. I lived in my mom's spare bedroom, and this was back in '96. So there really wasn't much of an internet at the time. You had an AOL disk, and you can put together a little dinky website, but nobody was ever going to them. And so I was running into the city every day, creating my own luck. I was going into the city, I was meeting up with musicians, I was stalking people, I was standing outside of theaters, I was stealing playbills. I brought a wire cutter, and I stole a phone book off the from the bus station, so I would be able to call people. This was, I had nothing to lose. And so it wasn't like I was, born into this or anything like that. Like, I had nothing, and I had nothing to lose, and I was tenacious, and I ran at it with everything I had. And eventually, all the people that I needed to reach out to got tired of hearing from me, and they stopped picking up the phone, or they'd hung up on me, or cursed me out, threatened, threatened to file a restraining order. I got 2 of those. It was pretty bad, and so I reached out to the big trade magazine at the time, which is Bass Player Magazine, and I convinced them to let me write an article about what it's like to work on Broadway, so I can get in and interview everybody that had the gig that I wanted. And it was a way for me to be an authority in the space because I couldn't do it as a player. I found another way. I found another way to become an authority, and I wrote that article, and that actually ended up turning into one of the people I interviewed had me sub on a gig, and next thing you know, I was playing with one of the biggest shows on Broadway.
That is awesome, man. I love that whole story, everything about that. And you just got to make your own opportunity. If they're not going to bring you in as the expert, then how are you adjacent to the expert? How do you become
Yeah.
a resource to the expert? Somebody that can provide a benefit that will be of use to them. And you just it's pursuit. I love, I don't want this to go by. You had restraining orders taken out on you, and we're a sales agency. We live in the world of creating qualified booked appointments for people to drive revenue at scale. And I guarantee 99% of people listening have not followed up to the place where they had to have a restraining order put upon them. And I would challenge you to do so, guys. That's follow-up.
Yeah, I used to have a saying that was, one way or another, I'm going to get an order. It's either going to be a purchase order or a restraining order. And it was this idea that I'm just not going to stop until I get either, some kind of answer, like something, give me something. And that was enough. Like there were like the people that were just like, all right, enough. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Call this guy. Like it was stuff like that was like, okay, that's another step. That's one more step, in that right direction. And really what the turning point beyond, like, let me see if I can just bug everybody, because that's really not a great thing to do, just bug everybody till they hate you. But what really had me turn the corner was matching that tenacity with making sure that, like, what can I do that would be incredibly valuable to the people that I'm reaching out to? Nobody was able to get in touch with or get, like, as a musician, everybody wanted to be in the magazine, but nobody was able to because they didn't know anybody that wrote for the magazine. So I was like, well, let me get there and I can give them what they want. So now I'm this tenacious guy who can give them what they want and add some value to them. And then there's a sense of, okay, like, what can we do for you? Because that law of reciprocity kicks in, where it's just like, okay, like, you've done nothing but give, and be a little bit of a pain, but give. And so how can we return that favor?
Yeah, it's just, you got to be able to just relax and look into, just look all around you and find the spot that you can provide a resource, even if it's connecting somebody who's got a problem to somebody who has a solution. And how can you be part of that? How can you broker the deals, quote unquote? That's we've been watching Masterclass recently, and Richard Branson has something on Masterclass, and he was telling a story about Virgin Airlines, and I was born by just creating an opportunity, because he was trying to get to the Virgin Islands, and it was coming from, I think, Massachusetts or somewhere there, and there was not enough people on the flight that they canceled it. And he's like, I paid for my ticket. I got to get home. I don't have the luxury of waiting for other people to need to get there. So he goes and finds a small plane on the plane with a pilot, and says, can you take me to Virgin Airlines, or excuse me, can you take me to the Virgin Islands? And it's like, yeah, for a price, and here's what it is. And he goes and he finds all the people who were on the flight. He says, hey, look, for $39, this guy's going to take us. We're going to pay him $39. This guy's going to take us to the Virgin Islands. They all pay him $39. He gives it all to the pilot, and then essentially Virgin Airlines was born.
That's crazy.
But he could have sat around and said, well, I'm going to have to stay here. He could have been mad. He could have done all kinds of things. But instead, he said, right, where's the solution?
Yeah. And that's the thing, and how I've kind of brought this into business too is really trying to understand what's important to the person I'm trying to reach, and being valuable in that sense. Like, because a lot of times I think, whether it's sales or whether it's marketing or a business owner, you're trying to reach somebody. And so you do what you think would be valuable. Hey, let me show you a couple things here. I went through your website and I found these 10 things wrong with it. Like, you're just giving that person more homework. Here's a squeezy ball with my logo on it. I don't really want a squeezy ball with your logo on it.
Right.
And so what I started doing was really kind of, there's somebody I wanted to reach on the business side. What can I do to be their version of valuable, not my version of valuable? Instead of giving you a squeezy ball or a t-shirt with my logo on it, I started printing up t-shirts with their logo on it. And so my client, like if you signed up and we designed your logo, I'd buy your entire family a t-shirt with your logo on it. So then you can, wake up in the morning, you have your entire family wearing your new logo. And this is a constant reminder of what we did for you. And it would be stuff like that that would just, because then they would share it all over Facebook and oh my God, look what we got, and it was just a way of better feeding, what they wanted, knowing that if I did that enough and I did it big enough, they would remember me. I didn't have to have my logo on a pen for them to remember me. They would just remember me because I did the thing that nobody else did.
Right. And if you send me a pen with your name on it, that's great. But as soon as the ink runs out, I'm tossing it because it's your pen, not mine.
Yeah. And I give them to my kids most of the time.
Yeah,
Anyway.
those don't matter.
My kids don't need an accountant right now. So that's
exactly.
so
We have a client who's working with somebody who is producing documentary films for entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And so what we came up with as a way for him to get a message inside the door for something that would be valuable to the potential client is created a movie poster with the potential movie starring you. And what's the outcome, right? So the mission, the movie, the message, and you. And his logo's in the corner, but the poster is about you.
Right.
So these clients are taking his poster like, this is cool. And they're putting it up on the wall in their office. Yes. So it's about them, what they're creating. So I love that whole perspective. Just, you have to stay focused on what do they need, not what do you need. So, as we get towards wrapping up on this here, what's the perspective that you've got as you're looking around now? You and I were blessed, fortunate. We've created some success to build on for ourselves, but there are a lot of people who are trying to break through, and right now feels like the worst time in the world for them. What wisdom or guidance, encouragement do you want to share with them around the times that we're in right now and how to be able to lean in, even if you haven't had a mountain of success to build on?
I think clarity, in who you are and what you bring and where your value is and what you want to do and all that kind of stuff. Like if you don't have that figured out, running around just trying to help people do something, what do you need? I can do it. Then you become that jack of all trades, and that's not where you belong. So really getting that clarity on who you are and the value that you bring, and then you should be reaching out to and showing up in front of every possible person that you can meet, not because they can help you, not because, hey, there's a bunch of potential clients in that room, I have a thing, a saying where I collect people, not like the serial killer, like type, but I collect people. It's really important to me to get to know as many people as possible and get on people's radars and make a lot of friends. I walk into a room and it's just time to make some friends. Because I know that if I do that enough and sincerely and legitimately create relationships, the rest will work itself out. If I'm clear on who I am and I know that I have a valuable offer and I can do something that brings something significant to somebody else's life, and I have a huge community of people that know and like me, I know the business end of things will work itself out. It always does. Always does.
That is so true. Lean into that, guys. That's just some really good sound wisdom. Find the thing that you can make an impact in, and just get in front of as many people as you can who can benefit from that or benefit from connecting you to somebody else so that they can be a resource. I love connecting solutions to great people, right? Because then I'm part of that process. It makes me feel good to be needed, to be useful, to be impactful in the process. So you got to look around as every single problem that's going on in the marketplace and in the economy right now are nothing but a sea of opportunities for you to take advantage of. And all you need is one. All you need is one.
That's absolutely true.
So how can people get a hold of you? Let's take a quick minute and just, share a little bit more. What do you have going on right now, and what should people be looking for to be able to be in your world?
Sure. So I have two agencies. I did keep I converted the branding agency into a full service marketing agency, very similar to my original company. And then and the name of that company is Loudmouse. And that's mouse with not a mouth, like MOUSE. Like I gotta spell it because everybody thinks I say loudmouth. But it's Loudmouse, and the website is loudmouse.com. And then the CMO agency, where like I said, we do the name of the company is Forensic CMO. And what we do is we basically follow every single dollar that you're spending on marketing. We figure out, how to, where the waste is, where the opportunities are. And then we build the marketing team to implement within, the average company that we come in, we find about 25-30% waste in that first month. Within the first 3 months, we're doubling your ROAS, tripling your ROAS. Like there's the challenge is that there's such a disconnect between marketing vendors and CEOs or entrepreneurs or people, or teams or people that are running the company, that there's this sea of, and it's not like vendors are trying to, screw you. They just don't know. They're doing their marketing thing and you're doing your business thing, and somewhere in the middle, nobody's actually managing any of this. And so that's where we kind of come in and we fix that problem.
Very cool. And what's the good size or default? What should people be expecting? What size of business should they be before they come to you?
We focus on 5 to 25 million. And then right at 25 million, we start working with you to bring on an in-house CMO and marketing team. Like when, the 25 to 50 million, we do some work in there, but more often than not, we're in a place where it's like, yeah, you need somebody here full time. You need somebody that's part of the culture and that's in the company. So we look to step away right around 25, 30, 40 million.
Great. So for those of you that this is all making sense for, jump on, reach out, find out where you can, what insights you can gain, what knowledge you can tap into. And if it fits, see if you're able to work with, some of the best marketing minds in the game. He's got a lot of experience and a lot of track record of success, as you just heard. So make sure you find out what's going on. Let him know you came from here on the Opportunity Makers podcast, and always go out, take advantage of the opportunities that are all around you, make money, make impact, change lives, and be part of the solution. So that now you can start writing a new story for yourself and for others, right? Thanks for tuning in. We know you could have been any place else and you chose to be here. So make sure you rate, review, subscribe, and share this with anybody that is beneficial to. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Opportunity Makers. Head on over to gaintheedgenow.com to connect with Jim and his team. And remember, there's no such thing as limits or obstacles, only opportunities.